Cool.
All good. Well, first off, thank you for joining me and the Museum of Graffiti and everybody who's on board this evening. Um, and again, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. There's a lot to cover with you that I think is super cool. It speaks to, um, you know, the value of curiosity and focus and tenacity and commitment on several fronts. And so, um, first of all, welcome. How are you? It's been a
Good.
while.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah. Nice to see you too, man.
So let me do this. I usually read someone's bio when we start, and
Okay.
I
Oh,
have
shit. I didn't even send you the bio, did I?
no. That's okay because
You
it's
all
funny
right?
because yeah, because I'm good. What's
Sorry.
interesting is that I found one. I found
Okay.
something that
Right, you
was
found the tag too. Good.
yeah. I found something.
Son of a bitch. I'm terrible. I've got a million projects going on today.
Blame it on the gray hairs, right? Um,
Blame it on the weed, bro.
yeah, that too, right? And
Yeah, for
so
sure.
it's funny because there's two of them that I pulled, but I kind of like the one that I pulled from your site because it's so abbreviated and it's kind of might be cool if I was a really good speed reader, but it goes as this: birth, upstate New York, 1971; drawing, cycling, New Mexico, 1979; heavy metal, skateboarding, punk rock, hip hop; first job, McDonald's; Scotland, England, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, USSR; honors graduate, 1989; Thailand, architecture student at University of New Mexico; dishwashing jobs, raves, Laurier, stop eating meat, first tattoo; think skateboard, San Francisco, 1993; Dharma, Anji, London, 1998; adult bookstore employee; computer animation job; start tattooing, first tattoo shop. Again, I'm gonna let it. I'm just gonna stop there because we'll fill in the blanks. But
Sure.
I love the abbreviated history that right off the top says so much about you.
Yeah, that's
At-
why I use that instead of like a traditionally written bio. I feel like it just tells a lot.
yeah, exactly. And there are things that are just uh, really super cool, and more importantly, you end it right here, right now, and
Yeah.
that is a good way to end that resume. But
Yeah.
let's get into it. We've got some great images, and
All right.
man, and you like any other normal kid in America, right?
Yeah. Very
What
much
did you
so. Very much a
what did you
regular
care?
American kid, you know?
Yeah, and what did you care about at this age, and where were you?
I was drawing a lot um, during, I think I was probably 10 or 11 there. Um, yeah, there's a lot going on, you know? I mean, that was early in living in New Mexico, and that was a big culture shock. But I adjusted, you know? I had like a banana seat bike in New York when I was little. And then,
Hmm.
get to New Mexico and there's dirt everywhere. So I start riding BMX. And instead of just buying bicycles from stores, my father would take me to the flea market and we would buy beat up bikes and we would fix them up. And he showed me how to rebuild them all and repaint them and all that kind of stuff. So there's like, a big lesson in that too, just looking at this picture.
Right, and so it's kind of like you have this really kind of it would seem anyway the prototypical American life, right?
Absolutely. Both parents worked. So I was a latchkey kid with my little sister. Um, I got terrorized by the neighborhood kids. And, all of that. I was a real good student. I never skipped class. Uh, I was just a chill kid. I just loved riding my BMX bike. And then after my first trip to San Diego in, I think, 84, I discovered skateboarding. And then that was a whole other trajectory.
Right, and it was skateboarding, and then eventually punk music and hip
All of
hop,
that.
and
Yes.
and and eventually graph. One of the
Yeah.
things that's interesting to me, because you go from this to this, and it's like,
Yeah.
I thought I raised my kid right. What happened?
Well,
Like, how did
my
how did
parents were really supportive, though. I mean,
really?
yeah, no, I was living at home in my first year of college and going out at night. I'd leave the house at like 10 o'clock when my parents would be going to sleep, and they'd be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm going to go paint something." And they'd be like, "Well, if you get caught, don't call us. Like, just go to jail and deal with it. It's on you. You're old enough." And I was like, "That's cool." But I'd tell them where it was, and they would go look, and they'd let me know if it was good or not, in their minds, you know?
So, Mike, just to contextualize all this, that's around 1983, correct?
I started writing in 89.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where, like, this picture of me and Agree, this is probably 1990, because I didn't meet him until I'd been writing for a few months.
Okay, gotcha. So then I wrote that note wrong.
That's cool.
Oh, no, yeah, that's right. 1989. I wrote something
Yeah.
else in 1983. So that's late, right? That you were already going into college, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, I had been obviously around graffiti. I had always looked at it. Even as a skateboarder, we would end up in a lot of the same places that graffiti writers would frequent. I remember seeing tons of gang writing, of course, since I moved to New Mexico in, what year was that, 79 or 80?
Right.
So, and I had friends in high school that drew graffiti. I had seen subway art in high school, so I kind of understood it, but it always had this context of New York City and trains to me, so I didn't really relate to how it worked in Albuquerque, so to speak. But I
Right.
saw how people were translating all that, But it wasn't until that summer between high school and college that I started actually writing.
Right. And I mean, being from Albuquerque, I mean, that's a culturally rich place, isn't it?
Absolutely.
To draw a lot of, especially off the Latin community and the indigenous.
Yeah, of course.
folks
No,
as
I
well.
was immersed in it. Absolutely. And I was raised Catholic, so even more so, like really rubbing elbows with the local culture every Sunday in some ways,
Yeah. And you know what? Just behind your left ear, Santa Maria, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a version of the Guadalupe that I did
Oh,
for
Guadalupe. There you
a
go.
local restaurant. Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah. So tell me about this picture. This is your homie. Is this
Yeah.
another writing partner?
This is Agree. Yeah, so he
Oh, that's
moved
Agree.
That's Agree. So he moved to Brooklyn, or moved from Brooklyn to Albuquerque, I think in 88 or 89. I'm not so sure. Let's see. I didn't run into him, I think, until 1990, because in that year, I did a trip to London, and I picked up a lot of electronic music, which was kind of a new thing, 1990. And I had all these tapes, and I heard that kind of music one night on the college radio station in Albuquerque, and I just called the station and told them I had all these tapes from London, and I'd love to trade with, whatever they have, and they immediately invited me up, and eventually I got on air, and Agree called the station, and just was like, "Yo, you giant, you're the dude that paints at Monolithic. We want to meet you, me and Doc." And I was like losing my mind, because I saw their pieces, kind of all over in tags and stuff, and they were really doing graffiti, fat caps and the whole fucking nine. And I was floundering with stock cans and had no direction, just was kind of, how you are when you're a toy. You just rough it out and just kind of glean things here and there, but you start to find your own way of doing things. And so, yeah, it just popped off. We met the day after he called the radio station, and they took me actually to the place that's in the photograph here. It was a submerged like basement structure of a building that never got finished, so you couldn't see it from the street. So it's kind of a free-for-all zone for us.
Right. To me, it looks like some kind of Hall of Fame, or
That's exactly
like
what it was for us. We called it
layout.
the Monolithic because of all those like columns that just stuck up and these like lone standing walls. It was a fucking awesome place. You could go there any day of the week. And I mean, there was a time when I was going there every morning before I'd go to my job at the skateboard shop, you know, and just do a piece every fucking day, you know. But that's really where I was trained as a graffiti writer, was that place by Agree and Doc.
And Mike, that given that you were now at this point around a lot of graph, did you get a sense of who was there before you? Who were the original writers of that kind of area?
Yeah, I mean,
The pioneers of that region.
There were crews in Albuquerque well before I started writing. Yeah, there's, you know, like most cities, it's split up into kind of the west side and the east side. You know,
right.
And the west side had a lot of, like, I'd say more gang writing than the east side, but a lot of hip hop writing too, all mixed up in there.
Pause on that for a second for me, because
sure.
This photo that I'm looking at, again, we talk about gang
first piece.
Writing.
That's my first one.
Yeah, is it Uptown?
Straight up, first one. Yeah, Uptown Skate Posse.
Exactly.
Kind of made up the name, like, kind of on the spot, and just kind of listed my friends' names under it there, just as trying to figure it out, you know, how to
right. And this comes across
how to make it happen, you know.
Right, and this comes across as gang graffiti, so to speak. Like you're announcing your crew. This is my gang.
Yeah. Again, the graffiti though that I was seeing from, say, I think there was CWK crew.
Mm-hmm.
They would do roll calls of the people in their crew next to their productions.
Yeah.
2ZC was doing the same thing. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't. Also, the structure of a gang roll call is way different than what I did there, you know? And I was very familiar with how all that worked and the precision that they used. And they very rarely used color or special caps.
Right.
But the precision, especially on like cinder block walls,
mm-hmm.
the really good gang writers would really follow the lines of the bricks and keep everything super even. And that always blew my mind that they, you know, I could see they were using basically the ruler of the wall to keep everything straight and upright, you know. And graffiti was, you know, different, you know.
And to your point,
that's me.
Yeah, and to your point, you know, in the roll call, if you're looking at this roll call, it's not in the tradition which you're speaking of.
Well, and I remember seeing scrolls in subway art on trains. So this actually, I think, was the first time I ever hit the freeway. And I came back the next day with a friend and a film camera and got this photograph. And even, you know, I'd done a few pieces kind of tucked away, but I'd already had beef with dipshit local kids. And so the banner there is really a call out, like, you are lame, you have no talent, quit tagging, you know, burn this sucker. Like, you know, I was trying to engage with it, you know.
Sure.
I was this goofy kid, but I was taking it seriously, you know. Even the character in the piece, like, it's not small by any means. I mean, even now, like, 3 sections of wall like that would be a normal size piece. You know, I was doing sparkles, backgrounds, and you could see to the left, that was the state of graffiti at the time, was like skinhead scribble shit, you know? So I was trying to come with it, you know? It was like, oh, okay, well, this is a good spot, obviously. Other people are hitting it, but I'm going to do it for the first time in full color. I didn't even buff that wall. I don't think there was a single tag on it. It might have been buffed by the city. Yeah, it probably was, actually, because it looks pretty gray, huh, behind that skinhead shit.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. But it's one of those things, I think I learned how to buff not too long after that. Like, even this piece was just straight up on a bare concrete wall. I hadn't even considered. No, again, now I can see it, I think. This would have been an early buff one, because I think I can see that kind of khaki color underneath the piece.
It doesn't look buff. Oh, yeah, it is.
Can you see it? Yeah, see, that's the thing. It would have been the first layer, though. Yeah. We used to buy, it was $5 for 5 gallons of the khaki paint. It was like from the city, oddly. And we would roll shit out with that all the time. We even did blockbusters with it.
Here's an interesting Wes.
Yeah.
So in terms of how, again, before you arrive at Giant,
Yeah.
you were Wesk. How
Well, I
many
was
names?
Giant first.
Oh,
West,
you were Giant first.
just
Okay.
yeah, West became a backup for shits and giggles,
Yeah.
just to play with different styles. Um,
And so
I had a few
how
different
did you
names,
arrive at Giant?
well, Giant just happened because at the exact location where that first piece of graffiti was, I ate shit like the day before, and I hit the ground so hard that it shook. I think it was hollow under the concrete, and it was like a boom. And a friend of mine was just like, "Holy shit, you just went down like a giant." And I had already been doing graffiti, oh no, that's right. I had already done the piece, and I'd done a few others, and I took friends there to show it to them, and that's what happened. I didn't have it. I was just writing Mike for the first few pieces,
Hmm.
just writing Mike next to it. And then after that kid said that to me after I bailed, that's when I started writing Giant. So it was pretty quickly into it that I stuck with Giant. But I wanted to bomb some too, and I was already starting to get a bit of people, like facial recognition from Giant, at least from young people.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do some dastardly deeds here and there. So, Wesk was this fun backup. It was a tag that I could do without looking at it. It was a one
Yeah.
stroke. So that was so fucking fun. And that Wesk piece that you had up, that silver style with my buddy next to it, that, yeah, my sister went to Europe, I think when she was 16, and she had a film camera, and she photographed out of the sides of the trains for the most part, track sides and stuff. And then she got those photos printed, back in Albuquerque, and gave me those graffiti ones. And I studied them. I mean, I can't even tell you, with the age of internet and stuff, like, to study just this little photograph. Like, I would look at the individual photos literally for hours and try to copy the styles and copy the names on paper and whatnot. And so this was just what I thought of as Paris street style letters from around that time.
Hmm.
And like I say, I just tried to replicate it pretty straight up. There's like even how the outline doesn't really cross over the letters and stuff. I tried to do it really consistent with their style, a real homage.
If they had that impact on you, what impact did New York have on you?
Well, huge, because Agree really taught me style. And he was from Brooklyn, down near the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. So as soon as I met him, he properly schooled me in pretty much the whole thing, from tags to throw ups, simple styles. There's another one. That's him with an oil wars piece that he did. Just silver. He would knock those out. Even like the drips off the outlines intentionally, and then the highlight over the top, and those weird 3D shapes. Like, he schooled me in all that. And I didn't really like pick up his style, kind of unfortunately, since he passed away. I always thought he'd be around forever, and I would just get to, he just had his style. But now I kind of wish I had more of his style as a way to kind of keep it alive. But, regardless, I got a proper schooling. He had some of the IGT newspaper magazine things.
Yeah, phase two.
He,
Rest in peace.
exactly. And he made me sit down and read all that phase two stuff, which was super philosophical about the world of style writing versus just bombing,
Yeah.
even the word graffiti. I learned that early on. Like, he did not like that, and that's why I like people refer to it more as style writing,
Yeah, yeah,
seems more appropriate.
you're right, and I mean there's a balance. And I say this because here at the Museum of Graffiti we understand the this phase two sentiment and riff and others, and I grew up as a writer, not as a graffiti writer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is vernacular. It's popular vernacular at this point. We kind of diffused it, right? And
Yeah.
would people come into the Museum of Style Writing? I don't know, but probably, but Museum of Graffiti will. And
Hey, again,
it's
it's
a
just words,
so
semantics.
let me ask you
You know?
this: as a grown man, when somebody says, "Oh,
Yeah,
this is my friend Mike Giant. He's a graffiti writer,"
yeah.
uh, what happens to you when some
Uh,
do you cringe, or do you like, yeah, right, whatever, or
oh
you just like,
no. It's more curiosity about how the person will react.
yeah,
You know, I mean, at this point, it could be all over the place how people react to that. You
right,
know, and
right,
they don't
because
know the
what they're
levels to it. If you're like world fucking famous or
well,
just
well,
local, or that it's an
but
innocuous thing to say about someone at this point.
absolutely, but even as you say, all the levels that there are to this, because as you
Yeah,
explained the details of this piece, right, and you learning
true.
style, there is
Yeah.
something so intelligent and articulate and thoughtful about that isn't kind of this, like the that is reflective of like the ghettoized graffiti concept, right?
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
This
Well,
is
sure,
like,
and again,
you know,
that's reading
for us,
what they
this is
think because they look at me and they're like, "Huh, this fucking dude, this
right,
dude's like a graffiti dude, huh?
right, because
All right, well, tell me
this is
more.
all
Tell me more." Hmm.
right. This is all critical thinking, and I pulled these two photographs of your work for a reason. One is from 1995, very specifically though, uh,
Yeah,
October 25th, 1995, and the one below it
yeah,
is in 2008. And they both
uh-huh.
have characters and they both have your name.
Yeah,
And clearly you can see in the evolutionary process of your work
hmm,
here. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
some thoughts about this where you were in these two pieces.
Well, I mean, the upper one was the symmetrical era. So I would draw half of the piece on tracing paper and then I would fold it over. And then I would try to make the last half of the A, the N, and the T match the
Hmm.
exterior shape of the GIA. The real trick was then to do that on the wall. And often I was able to do it spot on to the point where I would surprise myself when I would kind of reverse it in Photoshop to actually check my work. And
Hmm.
it would be damn close. I would really measure shit out. I was really trying to, make it real tight. And yeah, again, learning from Agree, I was taught, like a real production, in quotes, would have a nice piece, a character, and a nice background, and usually some nice kind of auxiliary little lettering like your tag or your crew name and stuff, but it was thought of, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's just formulaic for me, and just these are just examples of that in action, you know? The bottom one was painted in Toronto on a visit there. I was painting with Sight and Quest, and the lettering style was directly the result of watching Sight do his outline. He has this real particular different way, as far as I'm concerned, of sketching out a piece. So I just really took his cue. I studied him, watched him do it, and then started mine and would kind of check back to see what he was doing. Even the way that the sparkles are on the line
Yeah.
versus inside the line, that was something that he does. There's quite a few things there. I matched his background. Quest used a spray gun to do the background, the initial buff. I'd never seen anybody do that before. That was hot shit. I think that's definitely in the top 5 pieces of my career. That one on the bottom. There's just something about that one. Again, it was vibing off of somebody else, and it was freestyle, and it took me out of my comfort zone. And man, yeah, I couldn't replicate it now. It was just something that happened that day, which is exactly how graffiti should work in my mind.
There's something interesting in this too for me, in that your illustration skills, you really, particularly on the one above,
Yeah,
you you really start focusing on characters, and I want to go back to
yeah,
these
those got refined over time. Yeah,
yeah.
this was a different era too. I was vibing more off the LA stuff. So again, it's just as much as I learned about style in stealing your supplies and casing spots, I learned from Agree. I learned color theory and technique and stuff from Doc. So I was getting a lot of LA fluence too. And he was taking a lot of flicks when he would go to LA. So there's this kind of shading style. And I mean, this one in particular was influenced by Andy Howell, who did skateboard graphics for New Deal and a brand called Underworld Element that was kind of graffiti skate brand. It was really cool. But I think he did a Siamese something or other, and I was like, ah, fuck, I want to do a Siamese character too. And that's just what happened. The crazy glasses and stuff. Again, you know, the old mugs. But, you know, how would I do a mug? You know, even that one's a mug, right? Like, but how would I do it? And that one's under a bridge. We had a lot of nice chill under bridge spots.
So now, what's interesting to me, right, as all of us, similarly, many of us rather, we find our artistic talents, right? We start honing them in, and then, you know, the idea, we get more ambitious, so to speak. And sure. you were really ambitious too. And I have to point this out because you were just a hardcore bomber and tagger and throw up.
It was part of the game.
You had the whole package.
Again, I was schooled by Agree, and those words from Star Wars are still in my head. Like, you can't call yourself an all-out king if you specialize in one thing. So, you know, even today I hear that in my head. You know, it's like you gotta see where your talent takes you, and but you still gotta grind. You know, it was like Agree had us on this thing for like every piece that you do, you should have at least done 10 tags on the street. You know, it was he had this funny way of like equating things to get us to understand the balance of street to chill night spots to chill day spots, you know? So, I mean, we really did tag every single night there for years. You know?
Yeah, it shows.
Albuquerque was pretty wrecked.
so this particular throw up over Shepard's work, did he catch any feelings over this, or were you helping him out?
I called him that day. It was on the front of a store that we were doing a Rebel 8 event at, and the guy in the store really wanted me to paint the front, and I was just like, bro, it's huge. I can't paint the whole thing. And he was like, just do as much as you can. And I was like, I don't know, dude. And he's like, I don't think Shepard's going to mind. And I was like, all right, I'll check. And we checked in with Shepard, and he was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I didn't think that was going to last anyway. So I think I might have just had them grab me some black cans, and they had some white house paint just there at the spot. And I just buffed out as big a throw up as I could physically do on the spot, you know? And I mean, the funniest part of that was the buffing. Like, regular people walking by and are like, what the fuck is going on? This guy's going over Shepard in the middle of the fucking day. Holy shit. What the fuck? And people would stop and take pictures. Thought it was totally not cool. And yeah, but I finished it up. It was all good. You know, it was really fun. And it ran for a while.
Let me ask you something. Given that you're a style, you know, early on you were really into style and bombing, and again, as you said, you know, there is a criteria, and then there's this other emerging kind of off branch of the culture, which is called quote unquote street art, right?
Well, I guess because again, like, street art inherently means to me no words. No graffiti words, you know? And so, yeah, some people went that direction. Right. Others didn't, you know what I mean? But that's kind of the big distinction to me, you know? Yeah. But there was a lot of intermingling.
Absolutely. I mean, I have this slide
out there on the street, you know?
Right, and here we see Shepard, and we see a wild style piece on top of that.
Yeah, we collabed. That was legit.
Yeah.
Under a bridge in Fashion Valley in San Diego. Not permission, you know, but it was a yard. I think it still is. I just had him put some posters up. We just kind of roughly talked. That was at a point when I mean, those letters are really abstract. I think that point I might have been doing, I was trying to break into a new style. So I would ask people at the spot for a letter. And I'd ask maybe 4 or 5 people for a letter. And I would just paint whatever that was on the wall
Mm-hmm.
and try to make it look good. It was a
Interesting.
really weird time. Like, I don't think I did a fill-in like that ever again. You know, that,
Well,
and
well,
even that
you know,
background.
this
Like, see some of the lettering that's like Brems, TLMON XT4CW. That's fucking nonsense. That's
right,
where my headspace was at that time. You
right,
know,
right. But you're
that's
willing
funny
to,
to see.
you're right. You're willing to go there, which is important. And I think
Well,
one of
the
the
thing
reasons,
was, anybody could walk up and be like, "Oh shit, Giant was here," no
right,
question. And it
right,
wasn't even like, "Well, what the fuck did he do then? What the hell?" You know. I loved that.
exactly.
Again, like that's the thing. If the style is recognizable, that's the game. So to me, it was like, okay, it's so recognizable just the way I paint. Now I should be able to just do even ridiculous fucking nonsense, and hopefully I can still make it interesting.
Well,
And
your
it did
throw
help me
ups,
make that transition to a new style, like I wanted it to. It was just a
right,
stepping stone.
right. And to your point about style and finding the style, and ultimately a kind of signature style or something that people
Yeah,
would be stamped on, that's the game, and here we see again, the
I
patterning of
think so.
the bubble throw ups over and over again. And it's kind of weird because
Yeah, that's
it's abstract. You could almost approach it and not know that it's style writing or graph, and then of
yeah.
course you were a beast with the stickers, and
Oh
that's just
man, I
yet
had so
another
many goddamn stickers.
right.
Thousands and thousands. Every afternoon or evening, just sitting drinking beers with friends at the bars in the Mission, I would always be making stickers.
So
You
what
know?
makes sense to me about this kind of repetition of writing, that your constant practice,
Yeah.
you developed a really good line. One of the things I've always liked about your work is one that you had long lines and you painted to scale, like tall, top to bottom style.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, agree. He was like, we should be painting as big as subway trains. Straight up, why not? You know?
Uh,
It's funny. The first time I went to San Diego as a graffiti writer in 1992, maybe
mm,
91. Um, we went and painted a yard with them, and they painted these what we considered tiny little pieces with tons of tags and shit around them. It kind of drove us nuts, and we just smashed top to bottom. And the San Diego heads were like, "Oh fuck, out the gate, huh? Here we
yeah,
go!" And we were just like, "Oh, it's high. I mean, I have an 8-foot reach. I'm gonna paint as high as I can fucking reach. That's graffiti, and my fucking name is Giant. Like, it's got to be huge, like for real." A giant piece that was small, which I would just feel weird to me, you know.
you,
Sometimes you have to make it tight, but then I just simplify. I don't make it like
right,
a tiny little piece, you know.
right. This one I like a lot. This green one is beautiful.
Yeah, you remember the Risk did a piece for the Who's the Mac video for Ice Cube, and his piece was like a hot pink outline and had all different kind of blues in the fill-in. And when I saw it in person, it looked like a waterfall, and it blew my fucking mind. I don't even know if that's what he was going for, but that way of just these vertical kind of shaded streaks, I just kind of applied to all different color schemes, you know. There's
Mike,
something about that movement that always looks good, no matter which direction it's going.
so again, and you're gonna have to help me here because in my research, I read somewhere that you felt you were colorblind.
Yeah, I'm red-green colorblind.
You
So I don't
how
see the subtleties and the tones and hues. On a color wheel, you've
right?
got what? Red, yellow, blue in the center.
Yeah,
You mix those, you've got the secondary colors. You mix the secondaries, and then you have the tertiary, I think it's called.
yeah.
That's where I start to get lost. So I have to be very systematic about how I use color. And that's where Doc comes in. He used fantastic color schemes, and I would always
Mhm.
ask him what he used. At night, I'd really have to write down the name of the color on the can really big because I just couldn't see it, and I'd get confused. Like, is this the green? Is this the green? You know, even
Right.
today, I kind of have to ask friends, did I use that green or that green right there? You know, and they'll be like, I think it's this one. You know, but again,
I,
it gave me a look because I'm seeing the world differently. So it's got this real graphic punch, which
right.
again helped me in skateboarding because skateboard graphics needed to have that punch, right?
Right.
And tattoos too. So
Yeah.
I've just kind of found my way through it,
And
regardless of the
throw
color
ups too,
blindness.
and throw ups too. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
this
throw ups are so
neon.
simple. Two
It went.
colors, maybe just one. You know.
Well, the throw up. Yeah. Again, you gave. Let's talk about this. That giving
Sure.
character and life to a throw up.
Sure.
You know,
I love it
many
when
writers.
other people do it. That's
Right.
got,
Right. Right.
I got mine. You know. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's
My mom
interesting.
calls this one blah. She loves this one. She doesn't know the words, but regular people, they could see a funny face and respond to it. To me,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing with a character. Is it's this almost like a trick to get regular people to give it a bit more time and a bit more thought. Like, well, he could do a nice little cartoon, so maybe well, yeah, I guess there's some skill in that lettering too. Now that I'm looking at it, it's like this hook, you know.
Exactly. And I had Dalek on recently, and we talked about
Perfect
that.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, his characters with my pieces, I always thought was a fucking sweet combo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would agree. But Mike, I want to kind of like, talk to more about your career now. And
Sure.
there are lots of things that you've done over the years, and there's some signature things. And I got a little section here on Rebel 8.
Yep.
Tell me how you got involved with that project. And
Well, I had been tattooing Joshi, the founder and current owner, maybe a few times. And I knew that he had interest in like apparel and stuff. I think he was probably in art school then. And yeah, he just we were friends enough that he saw that I was struggling with getting paid as a freelancer, just because you're kind of a small cog in a big thing when you're working for corporations and stuff. And sometimes I wouldn't get paid for kind of big jobs just because I get sick of jumping through their fucking hoops and just didn't understand, and just was like, all right, well, fuck Nike, from here on out, that's that. And so he was just like, what if we did a brand that was just your work? And then I could set it up in a way that you'd have regular income and you wouldn't have to be chasing these checks. And I have a vision for it. I think we could really do something with this. I think it could be profitable and could be long-term. And I was like, shit, why not? If you're willing to take care of that part for me. Because again, to me, a t-shirt was just another way to get to my audience, like a tag is on a wall, like a t-shirt walks around and has a life, kind of like a box van or a train or something,
Right.
So I just saw it as an opportunity to get out there. And I was tattooing at time. I had been for a few years, and we always made self-promotional t-shirts for the shops that we worked at. And really Rebel 8 to me was just an extension of that on some level, of just taking the shop shirt idea and really trying to run with it and give it a signature branded look.
Right. And you were talking, again, your audience was the skater, punk kid,
Sure.
The outsider, right?
And I think so.
Yeah, it
we
completely speaks to that.
It's just, my people, it's how we are.
No, exactly, right? But you also opened up a shop, right? And
later on, yeah, in
let me just fast forward to that.
What year was that? That was probably 05 or 06 that I opened up Stay Gold with some friends in Albuquerque. Yeah. Oh, that's a good shot. That was a fun party.
And were you doing trade shows and all that at that time?
Yeah,
And you'd meet
yeah,
out all
we did Magic and Agenda, all that kind of stuff. You know, right when they were just starting to let streetwear kind of brands into it. Kind of, they weren't even calling it streetwear at the time. I think maybe only Tribal Gear was calling it streetwear.
right.
You know?
Those were fun times because you would
Yeah.
find a lot of homies, you know, hustling their wares, you
Oh,
know.
the trade shows were
Whether
always fun that
yeah,
way. Yeah, like
yeah,
a meeting of the minds of
and,
yeah, even among like the graffiti scene, it was like the professionals in the graffiti scene, people who had parlayed their approach to style and that ability to just show some nuts and go for self, not take a
right,
job, you know?
right.
And there's this cluster of all these people, you know? And often, you know, somebody, I mean, I remember a legendary ASR in San Diego, and Twist came and he caught fat cap tags around San Diego and people were shitting their fucking pants. You know, I was used to it coming from San Francisco, but you know, to see it in their town, people and everybody was hunting for him to like to see what he looked like or anything. He was always really secretive. It was so
Yeah,
fun.
he caught wreck.
He did.
So the other thing I want to talk about, I mean, the writing, and not just
Okay.
graffiti writing, lettering
Yeah.
and
Yep.
typography. And you did a beautiful book. You published a beautiful book, right? Your black book, the
Oh
giant
yeah.
one.
Yep. That's a great
And
little book.
yeah, I
How
say
to.
so. And it's nice because you cover a lot of ground and in terms of your work. But for me, with regard to your hands and your skill at typography, it was nice to
Hmm.
see this page, right? Of a nice
That's
clean
yeah. I
text.
mean, I love to see those collections of writers' font sets like this. I love that shit. I know a lot of people do it these days, and this is just mine. You know,
And
my go at it. Not the best throw up letters, not the best, you know, kind of marker letters, you know, but just that's how I do it.
yeah, no, and again, this is completely legitimate typography, and
Oh,
so
sure.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's something I've resisted, though, for the most part, is turning my lettering into fonts. And a
why
certain
is
level,
that?
I feel like I shoot myself in the foot when I do that. You know, a big
I'd use
part
your
of the reason
letters.
I get hired is because people know I'm going to do it by hand. Anybody can do stuff on the computer or the pad now.
Sure,
And
sure.
you know, it's like some people want to associate their product with more of a handmade, hand, you know, old
So
school
you're
thing. So
are
I
you
still get work that for that reason, I think.
Mike? Are you primarily analog?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
That's
use
amazing.
Photoshop as like a tool and as a
Hmm.
finishing tool,
Right.
say, but I still illustrate everything by hand and then have it scanned and then have it dealt with appropriately for whatever application, you know. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's all hand done.
Hmm. Well, again, the other thing that comes of all of this for you over the years, as you start getting better at your illustration, you start understanding uh, various types of illustration styles from, you know,
Yeah,
from the 50s and
yeah.
uh, 60s. Um, uh, I particularly like what you did here with the patterning of your giant throw up.
You know, I love when John One does that with his tags, like the canvases he'll do, or it's just John One, John One, John One, like a million
Yeah.
different times in different colors. And again, I was in Amsterdam, I think, when I did this one, and I was just vibing off of that directly. It was just like, well, how would I do that with throw ups? And that's what it looked like. But there's something,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something beautiful about that to me, you know,
Yeah.
just like smashed.
But again, let's
Oh,
go back
yeah,
to typography.
sure.
This is what surprises me is that we know you as such a prolific font maker or type designer. Let's just say.
Yeah, I really study it, you know. And often too, I will use a font from Photoshop and I'll print it out and then I'll just kind of riff off of it. So I learn a lot about different fonts kind of doing that too. But I'm always like, if I see a sign or something that's inspiring, I'll take a photo of it with my phone and I may incorporate that in down the line, you know. Even like the piece on the right there is a riff off of, I think it's Good Time Charlie and Jack Rudy, famous fine line tattoo artists from the West Coast. They did a whole poster of different lettering styles for tattoos, and I just kind of riffed off of that pretty directly in my version there on the right.
Mike, let me ask you this. When you were, what this kind of tells me about you and your hand is very disciplined. You understand structure, you understand kind of the framework of lettering, and of course, this is kind of could be found in graffiti as well. But in school, because you were studying architecture, right?
I did. And even before like I got to architecture school, I had learned all of the drafting fundamentals from the previous era using actual drafting tools and stuff. And so that's what a lot of the order and the tightness of the layout is from stuff I learned in high school. I had a high school engineering teacher that brought the first AutoCAD systems into the New Mexico school system at my high school. So I was just in this perfect spot between the old methods and the new. And so in my daily practice, I still use a lot of those old pre-computer methods. But I am trained with the computer too. You know, I had the first Apple computer there ever was. I've always been keen on that. It always seemed like it was important to stay up on that, you know, and I'm glad I did. But again, I use it sparingly.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate the analog to digital experience. I come from that, and I understand it. But I could see, again, those great old traditions. I could see you carrying them over, both in terms
I'll
of
be doing that
drafting.
actually. I'll be doing that directly soon on Twitch. I'll be doing teaching.
Oh man, great!
Straight up, all of my methodology, almost entirely the pre-computer methodology.
Is that?
I take it for granted that everybody knows that shit. That's often why I don't show my work on my Instagram feed. But I'm seeing now that those tools would be helpful for people, even people that are using pads, just to, again, how to create compositions. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to lettering. I think I could go on and on for years just teaching little 1 hour lettering courses. You know,
well, and it's not just lettering and how you use lettering with design. And I think that
it should all be cohesive.
Right.
Yeah. Like a
mean,
huge pet peeve for me is when people, especially in the tattoo industry, will make a T-shirt and it'll have this cool skull graphic or something on it, and there's some font right out of the computer next to it. And I'm just like, bro, you couldn't draw your own fucking lettering? It's like the people that put a Helvetica tattoo sign in front of their shop. It's like, wow, they couldn't even make a sign? You're going to trust them to make a tattoo? Like, bro, that they use the cheapest vinyl sign you can get. Like, that's not good. That's a red flag, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but when I saw this, it's wild, and you know, a kind of a point of connection to me was Milton Glaser, and I know it's so, it seems so far away in a way. This is just so radical, but something I was like, yeah, it's kind of like that old tradition, you know, that
I have all kinds of Glaser stuff saved from old magazines and old books and stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was amazing.
Did he do the I Love New York symbol?
Yeah, most famously.
That's the thing I think that most people know about him, but if you look into his work, it's like, I have a book of his that just the end papers the opening and ending pages of the book are just all different lettering styles. And it's just, oh, God damn it. I mean, you could make your whole career out of just those end papers if you studied those fonts and learned how to do it like he did. Yeah. Yeah, this
Super
is a
cool.
good one.
And so this, you do prints, you make your work available via prints, and
Yeah.
you get commissions.
Yeah.
When did you do this? Because this seems so like on point for today.
That's probably 2008 or so. That's hard to tell.
Why isn't this
I
released
imagine.
again? This is so.
That's what I did for Rebel 8. I
Yeah.
think that might have been printed on T-shirts, maybe without the flag. I doubt he would have gone with that.
Right.
Just because that gives it such a different context.
Right.
But yeah, you know, and I love. You mentioned punk before. I love punk. I love the whole visual thing with punk and just the political aspect of it and the aggressive imagery and fucking with things that we take for granted. And this is just an extension of that, you know. Like, I love America. I've lived all over the world and I've seen that I could live anywhere in the world. But in the end, I'm an American. I'm going to stick it out here. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to have some criticisms here and there. Or, you know, that kind of.
Well,
yeah,
I
this
mean,
one's really cool too. This was oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, from what I understand of you, is that you're a Buddhist, and are you?
Sure, I practice the Buddhist
Buddhism,
teachings, but I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist.
Okay, so forgive me for that.
I think he would actually be really bummed on people calling themselves Buddhists.
But again, just to point out your nature, so to speak, right?
No, that's my of all the different kind of spiritual and knowledge paths that I've studied, it's made the most sense, and in practical application, it has proved its worth over and over and over. So I have faith in it because it shows me it works, not because I'm just believing in some bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Get it. I get it. And I think I was inclined to say that just to kind of like, look, contrary to the rebellion, you're a really humble, cool man. You know, you're chill.
That's just it. I try to stay centered, but I try to stay, you know, woke and aware of what's happening on around me and the changes that are happening and how to adjust and which things have merit and which things are bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, at this point, because we're running long, I'm gonna pause.
Okay.
No, hang tight, because I don't go anywhere, folks. I'm just gonna pause and save the video and log in again. Okay, so that gives me a minute to.
I've seen you do that before.
Hang tight.
Okay.
Hang tight, folks.